So, do you ever feel like you just have too many tabs open in your mind? It's a thing, but it's a thing that we can do something about. Hi, I'm Misty Winkler, author of the book How to Use a Planner Without Wasting Time and The Convivial Homeschool Gospel Encouragement for Keeping Your Sanity While Living and Learning Alongside Your Kids. I'm a wife, homemaker, and homeschooling mom here to help you organize your attitude and dig into the good work that God has called you to do in your home. Here at Simply Convivial, we beat overwhelm and replace perfectionism with baby steps as we learn to manage family life well. I'm so glad you've joined me today. There are so many things going on in life, and as moms, we try to keep track of it all in our heads. This leads us to feeling overwhelmed easily because our brains are not very good at holding information a lot of the time. Our minds end up cluttered and stuck. But overcoming overwhelm is one of the things that we do all the time inside Convivial Circle. So I wanted to share this clip from one of our weekly seminars where we talked about closing open loops in our heads. So let's talk about what to do with it as we dig in. Trying to have a complete plan or a whole system or the perfect way before getting started is perfectionism. It's one of the things that prevents us from actually getting started. So we need to just start where we're at and start with baby steps, because then we'll figure out the right way, a way to do things that works for us along the way. So this is particularly true with a weekly review, because a weekly review can sound like something super official that you should get right, but it really is just a practice that evolves with you over time. And at the core, the weekly review is the time where you look at your plan, you look at your calendar, you update your lists, and that just puts your current life in mind, in view, so that you can move forward in the next week knowing what matters, knowing what's coming up. It helps you have a mental grasp on the coming week. So it doesn't need to be a bigger deal than that. So let's dig into our weekly review topic today, which the question in the monthly topic channel and then here for this session is, what are your open loops and anxieties? Which might not seem like it's related to a weekly review, but it is. It's a question to help you start where your problem is, because sometimes it's okay. I know that I need to have a better plan, or these things over here are stressing me out. We have a disconnect. It's very easy to have a disconnect between the problem and the solution, where we look for some kind of solution that we think is just going to help everything all at once. And so instead of actually troubleshooting our particular problem, we just say, I have a problem with planning. So I'm going to have a planning solution, a perfect plan, a better plan, a whole complete organization system. And then that's going to just solve all my planning problem baggage. And it doesn't. Because what we actually need is to have an awareness of where our particular individual struggles are right now, or where our particular trouble spots are, and then address those specifically. This is a focus problem. We have 4 steps that we use to get organized, and it is declutter, which is actually usually a brain dump, decluttering your head. But we start with decluttering, and then we focus, and then we take a baby step, and then we iterate. So identifying the problem and then addressing that is the focus step. You zero in, focus in on a particular issue, and then you take a baby step for an answer to that problem. So the weekly review can be a baby step towards solving open loops and anxieties, but not just generally. We have to figure out what they are. So it does start with decluttering, with a brain dump. So if you have paper with you right now, you can start brain dumping. What comes to mind when I say, what are your open loops? Karen says, my entire world is an open loop. I relate. So, what is an open loop? Rebecca asks, which is a good question. This is a term that David Allen uses to refer to anything in your life that feels undefined or as an open obligation, a commitment that you've made that you are maybe not fulfilling, or an obligation in the future that's on the back of your mind. It's in your mind, but you're not really doing anything about it. So they are uncertainties or obligations, or even the sense of obligation without actually being an obligation. And Jennifer, as an example, she has 20 pounds of cabbage that has to be made into sauerkraut. That's an open loop. So you have something and you should be doing something with it and you aren't. If laundry is just working and we've got a routine and it's being addressed, then that's not an open loop. We've got a plan in place. There is laundry to do, but we have a way that we're dealing with it. And so it's not a concern. That's not an open loop. But if you have a backlog of laundry, if you just got back from vacation and you have suitcases full of laundry that you're going to have to process before you can go do this other thing, and it's going to take more time than fits in the normal routine, that's an open loop. You have some kind of responsibility that is maybe not completely defined and not handled right now. It's not being, you're not actively doing it. And you maybe even don't really have your head wrapped around how it's going to happen. So you have these uncertainties in your head, and the sense of obligation or responsibility, but there's no action plan for taking care of it. And that can produce anxiety. So often our anxieties are tied to open loops, at least normal, like that, the sense of care, like the cares of the world kind of care, not like I love you caring, but and not anxiety like an anxiety disorder kind of anxiety or something emotional or spiritual going on, but just your everyday sense of pressure or tension or stress that just has to do with trying to remember that you have to do something in the future. Building a new home is 12 dozen open loops. I know, because we're there right now. We have a purchased lot and are just coming towards having a plan to build. Sarah gives an example there. Maybe I should send a card to someone. That's an open loop. It's an idea that you have in your head that you maybe ought to do something that you want to hold on to, but you're not really taking action on it yet. That's a kind of open loop. A normal and routine are words that will find a place in your life as we move through the material, but it is a process to get there. They aren't the kind of things that just happen because you put a plan on paper. Even trying to figure out what routines you need, that's an open loop right there. So an open loop are things that give us a mental load. That's a good word for that pressure, the stress, that kind of impending doom. Like, I think different people feel it in different ways, but it's something that you're trying to hold on to that you need to take action on it, but you aren't taking action on it right now. So Rebecca says, I'm feeling like my entire house is run down and needs updating, new paint jobs, new furniture. So actually that feeling of the entire house being run down is not an open loop. That whole list of things. Like I see that I need a new couch, new dining room tables. This room needs to be painted. That room needs to be painted. Each one of those is an open loop. And that's why you get the feeling of, I feel like the whole house needs to be updated. And that becomes a huge, gigantic thing because you have innumerable open loops underneath that umbrella. A huge project. This is going to take a year, 5 years, whatever. So I don't have to be overwhelmed about finishing the whole thing right now. I could say, what's one thing I can do to make this better this week or this month, and put that on the list. So this is why for your brain dump, there is always, or there should be at least a small spot for brain dumping, because just living life produces open loops. So we're not, getting organized or whatever so that we never experience overwhelm and we never experience open loops. When a project comes up, when there's a big responsibility, when you feel uncertain and anxious about something, when you feel overwhelmed at all the open loops, you know what to do.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Simply Convivial podcast. If you are feeling like you have open loops, open tabs all the time, then a weekly review is one of the main ways that you can tackle that problem on a consistent basis. It's one of the most important habits that we practice inside Convivial Circle. And so we're doing a masterclass on the weekly review, spending 5 weeks from June 23rd through the full month of July, practicing a step-by-step weekly review incrementally, starting with just 15 minutes and moving up week by week to 45 minutes. This is 45 minutes that will help you wrap your head around your life and keep all the important balls moving, all the many plates spinning. I'd love to have you join us for this masterclass. It's included inside your membership at Convivial Circle, or you can register for just the masterclass. Find the link in the description below to learn more about the Mom's Weekly Review Masterclass coming right up. It will help you to approach your week by repenting, rejoicing, and repeating.